Now, there are concerns today over the spiralling costs of Britain's new high-speed rail project HS2. An official government review that's been seen by the Financial Times suggests the scheme could rise to more than £100 billion. Well, joining me now is Joe Rukin, national head of the Stop HS2 campaign. Joe, thanks for joining us on Sky News this afternoon. More than £100 billion. Is that something you were expecting?
Oh, absolutely. You know, HS2 has been out of control right since the moment that the lobbyists persuaded Lord Adonis to accept the project that they wanted to build. You know, this is what's got us there. You know, we were originally talking about £33 billion, and that would get a high-speed rail line that connected the Channel Tunnel and Heathrow, as well as the places on the spine of it. And now we're talking about £100 billion that doesn't have those links, and the cost will go up, and we're even talking about potentially de-scoping it even more, because there was never really an assessment of what was needed for Britain's transport infrastructure. It was just, this is the project we want you to pay us billions of pounds for building, so we're going to do that, aren't we? And it's only afterwards, 10 years down the line, you think, actually, yeah, you were sold a pup, you idiots. You know, that's the thing, that basically people have been lobbying for this, have got, you know, con the public, well, not really con the public, but definitely con the politicians.
Well, people in the
believing this is like
Joe, sorry to interrupt, Joe, but people in the north of the country, or many of them, would disagree with that assessment. They say they desperately need HS2. It needs to be part of this northern powerhouse, and we should be aspirational as a country rather than a nation of NIMBYs.
The Northern Powerhouse Partnership is George Osborne's vested interest lobbying club, which somehow has managed to set itself up as a mouthpiece of the North, which is funded by the companies who want to build this thing. Every single piece of international evidence shows that HS2 will drag more economic activity to London. That's what's happened all across the world. That's what happened with our hub and spoke transport system. It's made London more dominant, and the people who are lobbying for this are saying, you know what? Every project around like this across the world, this one's going to do exactly the opposite because we say so. The reality is that if you want to deliver benefits across the north, you'd be invested in projects like you're renewing the 11 miles of track that's missing between Skipton and Colne. It was shown that that could cost, what, 110 million about 5 years ago? Even if that was 10 times the cost, it would still be 1%, less than 1% of the budget of HS2.
Sorry to interrupt, Joe.
A new track across the Pennines.
There are going to be many people who say that it's pretty patronising, speaking on their behalf. The Mayor of Greater Manchester, Andy Burnham, has said it would not be acceptable if the North of England portion of HS2 was delayed or downgraded to slower speeds. He doesn't have a vested interest. He just wants what is best for his city.
Andy Burnham is a politician who said, oh, well, if we have HS2, we won't need Heathrow expansion because we could expand Manchester instead, completely failing to understand the concept that, you know, the argument against Heathrow expansion is against increasing carbon emissions and against increasing aviation. And that's one of the things that HS2 does. It's being lobbied for by the airports. It's being lobbied for by the sort of people in sharp suits who Andy Burnham sees every day. And the reality is that the people coming in and out of Manchester will not benefit from HS2 anything like how they could benefit with investment in existing transport infrastructure and new transport infrastructure around the regions. Andy Burnham wants investment around that square mile around Manchester Piccadilly Station. He doesn't care about Burnley and Keighley and Leyland and Workington. He wants investment in the centre of Manchester because that's what the people who he speaks to are after.
Joe,
it's not, HS2 does not deliver for the working man and woman of this country. It delivers for the intercity business elite and the political class, the executive class of people who think getting to London is the be-all and end-all of existence.
There'll be people watching this who can see that you're really fired up about this. You're really angry about this. What's your interest in it? Why are you personally so heavily involved in stopping this project?
Well, 10 years ago, I, like a lot of people, saw the words high-speed rail, and I thought, you know what, that's going to be a really great idea. And then, unlike the vast majority of people, I actually read the documents. And unlike the politicians who are lobbying for it, I understand what this scheme entails, and it is an absolute disaster. We're not arguing about the fact that it's 3 times over budget. So why are we arguing about the fact that it's not going to deliver for the North, that it's not going to be this panacea that delivers capacity across the network, because it delivers capacity where it's needed the least at the maximum possible cost, decades down to the future. It's going to eat up the entire transport infrastructure budget for decades. And this is one project that has got totally out of control. It's going to mean that those smaller projects could deliver more benefits to more people, more quickly, more sustainably. The things that are needed for the climate emergency now to get people out of their cars into the cities, in the regions, not into London. That's what's needed. And if HS2 goes ahead, those things aren't going to happen because all the money's going to go on HS2.
It's very easy to criticise, Joe, isn't it? I mean, I remember with the London Olympics, in the run-up to the Olympics, everyone was up in arms about the spiralling costs. Everyone said it was going to be a disaster. Of course, it happened. It was a huge success. And now we just look back on it fondly. In 10, 20, 30 years' time, when finally HS2 is up and running, maybe it won't turn out as badly as you say.
Well, the thing is, of course it will, because, all right, you'll say, oh, we've got a brand new shiny train line, but look what we could have had for the money. Just saying, oh, it'll be built and it'll be great is not good enough. The whole point of building infrastructure is to build the correct infrastructure, to actually have an assessment of what is needed for Britain's transport infrastructure. Like Rod Eddington said in his report for the Department of Transport 2006, he said, prioritise on the basis of need. And he said, the problem is that, you end up with political momentum building up behind vanity projects like high-speed rail. And that's what's happened. You can build it and afterwards say, oh, isn't it lovely and shiny? Or you can address the real problems that Britain's transport infrastructure faces every day that causes crush hour conditions getting into the cities in the regions. It's not about getting into London. And HS2 is not going to deliver on that. And It's not going to free up capacity. And it's just not going to be anything that we need in terms of tackling the climate.
OK, you put your points across very well, Joe Rukin, head of the Stop HS2 campaign.